Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? I am Jason Heine from the Emulator Review, taking a closer look at a classic game from Electronic Arts. This is Desert Strike for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. This is a game that I thoroughly enjoy. It's a game I hold close to my heart because I played it for hours and hours and hours growing up as a young man. All in all, I just think that it's a really good game. I think it has some cool history behind it. It has some firsts, and it also has some really cool gameplay. And so I wanted to go ahead and review it and talk about it and enlighten you guys on it if you hadn't seen it before. So the full name of this game is Desert Strike Return to the Gulf, most commonly known just as Desert Strike. It's a top-down kind of third-person shoot-'em-up action game released for the Super Nintendo, the Sega Mega Drive, and the Amiga home computer. And you're going to be able to tell right off the bat, even from the title and all the picture of the cover and all that, Desert Strike, this is inspired by the Gulf War, and it depicts conflict between, the Middle East, there's the US, there's a dictator that you have to try to take out, and even in the briefing before you start your mission, they even talk like that, he's a madman, you have to stop him before World War III happens. So definitely inspired by those events. But the gist of the game is that you control an Apache helicopter, and you have to go through and destroy enemy territory. You have to destroy their weapons, their airfields. You have to rescue MIA hostages, and you have to capture enemy personnel and documents. And you also have to manage the supplies and the fuel on your Apache. So it's not just like you can just run in there and fly around forever and destroy things. You actually have to plan accordingly, and that's something that really stuck out to me when I played this as I was younger. It was a game where I actually had to use my head, and being such a huge fan of arcade type of games, this was a nice change for me. And what really stands out to me in this game is the camera angle. And the lead designer of the game, Mike Posen, I believe it's pronounced, had no video game experience prior to developing Desert Strike. He went into it, just wanted to create kind of a non-linear game with smooth animations and make a game that was similar to kind of like Choplifter. He was inspired by that. But he wanted to come up with this camera angle that used momentum. So he also had to create a new physics engine to represent that in the game. And I think he did a fantastic job with it, really. And to be honest with you, I wasn't the only one who thought it was a great idea and great concept. Desert Strike was a huge commercial success, chart-topping bestseller game, and at the time, in 1992, this was the highest-selling game ever for Electronic Arts. The game received favorable critical response, and lots of magazines would score the game 90 or above. It was praised by critics, players, and in magazines. Huge success here for Electronic Arts. And another thing that really stands out to me is just the atmosphere about the game. I love when you just start the mission and you just take off from your aircraft carrier and you fly in, and there's no music, there's no cutscenes, it's just the sound effects, just the chopper, the guns, the enemies, and it's kind of surreal, you really feel like you're in that environment. I think they did a great job with that. Now, going back a little bit to the gameplay, like I talked about before, you kind of have to plan ahead. You can't just go in there and expect just to run through and beat the game. You really have to plan accordingly. You have to note that your fuel will run out, your armor, you can only carry a certain amount of passengers in your Apache, and you have to kind of go through in steps, switching back and forth through the map and then back out to the field. You really need to analyze things and play your mission accordingly, because this game doesn't really forgive you at all. You don't get any continues. You play through it, and you have, 3 or 4 lives, and when you're done, they're spent, it's over. Game over. You start all over again. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of one of those games where you have to sit down and make sure that you're going to invest time and invest yourself to playing it right, because if you get to the last enemy, and he kills you, and you just spent 20-30 minutes getting there, you're gonna have to redo it all again. And man, I'm telling you, I've done that. Learn from me, I've been there. I am that guy. So I know it's frustrating, but it sure is a good time, and it is a lot of fun. Desert Strike did get followed up by 4 sequels. There was Jungle Strike, Urban Strike, Soviet Strike, and Nuclear Strike. And these games did span across PS1, PS2, Nintendo 64, and I believe a few others. But it did go cross-platform, so you can get a hold of this game on, on different consoles, and even the sequels. You can find those; they're readily available out there in the wild. So, if you're kind of interested in getting a taste into the Desert Strike franchise, I really think you should start here. Start with the Mega Drive and Super NES version, and if you do have the Amiga home computer port, that is an excellent one too. Most people say that it is upgraded and much better than this here that you're looking at, so definitely something to look into. If you're looking for a fun, take your time but plan accordingly strategic helicopter fighting game, I think this definitely is your ticket. A great game that spawned many sequels, has a great history, and one that I hold close to my heart too. I played it so much as a kid. I hope you guys have enjoyed the review. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with me. Have a great day.